Founding Mothers, Women in the Revolutionary War. You probably know some amazing stories about the people who helped shape America's independence, especially the Founding Fathers. It is called history after all. But how many stories do you know about the Founding Mothers? Several women deserve credit for helping to create our country as it is today. So let's get into a little herstory and learn about some of the incredible female stories that also deserve to be shared. Abigail Adams was known for her opposition to enslavement and her support of public education. As the wife of John Adams, second President of the United States, she consistently wrote him letters regarding enslavement and women's rights. She was a close advisor to her husband on issues related to politics, government, and how to best form a new government. She also advocated for women's rights to be included in the U.S. Constitution, including the right to vote. If you ask us, the Founding Fathers should have listened to Abigail Adams. Women did not even get the right to vote until 1920. And even then, many women were still excluded from voting. Phillis Wheatley began her life in America as an enslaved person in Massachusetts after being kidnapped from her home on the African continent. Despite impossible circumstances, she learned to read and write and became the first African American poet to be published in America. She advocated for American independence and wrote several poems in support of George Washington. She met him in 1776. Have you ever heard of Deborah Samson? She came to America as an indentured servant and later became a school teacher. But that is not the most interesting thing about Deborah Samson. Not even close. Here is an interesting fact. Deborah disguised herself as a male and enlisted in the army under the name Robert Shurtleff. She fought side by side with other soldiers in several battles for over 2 years in this disguise. In 1783, she fell ill and her doctor discovered she was a woman. But he did not betray her secret. She later told a general in the army and was honorably discharged. She became the first woman in American history to earn a military pension. Wow! You might have heard of this next founding mother, Martha Washington. Can you guess who she was married to? Yep, she was married to George Washington. Like Abigail Adams, Martha served as an advisor to her husband and ran the family estate in his absence. However, her most important contribution to the war effort was probably when she took care of the troops encamped at Valley Forge. She brought blankets, food, clothing, and other essential supplies while also serving as a nurse, tending to the sick and injured. Talk about a founding mother. Mary Ludwig Hayes assisted the troops by providing water and other supplies on the battlefield. During one of the battles, her husband was wounded, so she stepped in and took over his job, which was to load and fire a cannon. She earned a position as a non-commissioned officer by General George Washington himself. Most everyone knows the story about Paul Revere's famous ride. But did you know he was not the only one warning the Americans of the British attack? At just 16 years old, Sybil Ludington jumped on a horse and rode through the countryside of Danbury, Connecticut, and warned residents of the impending attack. We wonder if she also said, "The British are coming!" Nancy Hart was described as a patriot who was a superb markswoman and protector of her family. Here is an interesting fact. While Nancy was making soap for her family, she encountered a British soldier who was scouting the area. Nancy captured the soldier all on her own dumping boiling water on him and then tying him up before turning him over to the Continental Army. She would also sometimes disguise herself as an old man and scout out enemy positions to pass along to the American Army. Talk about brave! Now that we have learned more about some of America's founding mothers, let's review. True or false? Paul Revere wasn't the only person who made a famous ride warning people that the British were coming. True. 16-year-old Sybil Ludington took a ride of her own and also warned people about the impending British attack. Fill in the blank. The founding mother who disguised herself as a man and fought in the army was named blank Samson. Deborah. Which founding mother was the first African-American poet to be published in America? Phillis Wheatley. Nice work, friends! Just like the founding fathers, the founding mothers played a vital part of America's fight to become an independent nation. Without their help, the Revolutionary War would have been much more difficult. And these women were just a few of the many early pioneers for women's rights and the march toward equality. Hope you had fun learning with us. Visit us at learnbright.org for thousands of free resources and turnkey solutions for teachers and homeschoolers.